everybody. I'm George.
And I'm Bob. We're the Shipping Goblins from Beetle and Grips. Today, we're going to talk about the amazing Map Vault Collection. And with the Map Vault Collection, you get a bunch of gorgeous two-sided maps, all scaled for standard minis.
Yeah, get yours now for the Map Vault Collection from Beetle and Grim, and all the players at your table will be revved up and hyper because the only thing they'll be able to say is...
Yeah, go ahead and do it.
Zoinks!
Yeah, do it again.
Zoinks!
Hello?
Who do you think you are?
Yes, Mr. Lillard.
You're just some common.
Yes, sir.
You can't just go off and use my
It's your
voice like
thing.
that. I have rights.
Completely. We just thought...
Wait,
okay.
I'm gonna take this right to the
yes, sir.
Beetle. Hey, Grim.
Thank you, sir.
What happened?
Matthew Lillard watches our show!
Zoinks!
Double
And one. Hello! Hopefully all the cameras and all the sound is actually working. Hello, welcome to Band of Badgers. I'm Dave, I'm your host for this evening. And this is the Great British Brush Off. These are my guests. I like Race he went, yep. This is the Great British Brush Off. Yep. It's a very...
The cameras are working and the sound is working. It's what I was trying to convey in this most inobtrusive style as possible.
Brilliant.
You look forward to my little interruptions
I do.
every stream.
I do, yeah.
Carry on.
I can't follow that. Welcome to our special guest artist this week. This is Dwight Wade, otherwise known as BigBeardedNerd from MTD.
Hey everybody, glad to be here.
Good. Nice to hear. That's the positive. It wasn't a yes. It wasn't a thumbs up yes, but we'll take it. And joining us around our painting table is Erin the Hamster Miller from Dwarven Forge.
Thank you
Hi,
for
Erin.
having me. Topulus, thanks for spamming that war hamster emote. I appreciate it.
Yes, I love that. Thank you as always to Beetle and Grim. They don't just sponsor this show; they are supporters of everything we do, of the entire channel and the stuff. Thank you, of course, to WizKids. Thank you to... Why am I losing my voice now? Blimey. Thank you to VMuse at WizKids. And thank you to Vallejo as well. Now, also thank you to not just to all our supporters, all the various companies who we work with. And you can find below Dwight on my screen, over there, below Dwight is a box with all different kind of special offers and discounts. Please use them. You'll be able to save yourself a few quid. But most important of all, thank you for watching. That's it, really. We're here anyway, but it's nice to know that you're there as well. Otherwise, we're just talking to voices and no one. So it's good to know. If you would like to support us in return, you can. We are on Twitch, which means Twitch channel Prime stuff, subbing things going on. So do use your Prime Twitch Prime things that way. Because it shows that you like and support what we do. It means that we can make content like today. Monday, we have the Great British Brush Off. Tuesday, we have Vazen, which is supported by Free League. Thursday, we're back with Rise of the Runelords, which is our Pathfinder supported by Peso. And Sunday, we have two shows. Sunday afternoon, we are back with our Badger Hammer 40k. And Sunday evening, we are... Badger Hammer. Again, it's just the whole...
we were discussing, do you think War Badger sounds better than Badger Hammer?
Yeah, War Badger. Yeah, War Badger. And we can have Sean do some like War Badger cartoon thing. You know.
Yeah, I already have plans.
Space Marine.
I've already asked him for so much.
And Sunday evening we are
Love you,
back.
Sean.
Always love Sean. Sunday evening we're back with our Vampire Masquerade series, supported by Onyx Path. Not only that, I mean that's just a normal week at the moment, but coming soon we have another 2 new shows. Our very own painting amateur Steve is going to be GMing Starfinder, Fly Free or Die. It's our new sci-fi show. And Joe, where's Joe? We know Joe, he's got his name on. Joe is kicking off our brand new Avernus. This is Descent to Avernus, but with a twist. Session 0 is still available on our Twitch channel, so go, not right now, go afterwards. Go check it out, bookmark it, do whatever you need to do. It's a lot of fun. And then that will also launch the first Saturday in May, I believe.
Yes.
Now, what is Banded Badgers about? Banded Badgers is that we make content not just for you, but we also help to support writers, artists, designers, creators of all kinds, no matter where they are, not just here in the UK, America, East, West Coast, somewhere in the middle, Canada, Australia, we've got Italy, Spain, France, Germany, absolutely everywhere. And if you would like a badger bump and you have a particular product or something that you've created, written, drawn that is in the TTRPG community, let us know. Get in contact. Don't just follow us on Twitter. Get in contact. Just drop us a line, okay? You can make sure you do that. Now, also, if you would like to come on and play with any of our games or come on and do some painting with us, you can. To do that, all you have to do is join our Discord community. Okay, come on, we have a lot of fun going on, and all our future games, one-shots, charity fundraisers, we're doing loads and loads of stuff. If you want to join us with that, join the community and get on board. Right, now that's over, I can get on with the main show. We are here is the brush off. What we have this week is this is the Pathfinder Deepcuts. This is the male Half-Orc Barbarian from WizKids. We are going to crack these open, and if you don't know the show, we're going to be painting for about an hour and 45 minutes. We're going to have a load of chit chat, hang out, grab your paints, paint along with us. We're going to hand over to Dwight, the big bearded nerd, to give us some expert tips on what we're doing, basically what we're doing. And in an hour and 45 minutes, Dwight will judge us. One of us will go home with the gold star, the painting star. Okay,
a big bearded star.
A big bearded star. We'll even put a beard on it just to signify that it's Dwight's gold star he is gifted. And then you, as the audience, along with Erin, will get to choose the runner-up. So there's a silver star up for grabs as well. But you'll see, as I just push this button to change cameras, I don't have any stars yet this season. This is season 2, episode 3, and I don't have a star. So please help me, Dwight. Don't joy. Enough of that. Enough of that. Right, Dwight, over to you. Here we go. Hopefully.
Over to me.
Yeah,
All right.
the cameras should change. There we go.
This is scary, but okay. Over to me. So, people put me in charge of things, and I see Mini Train Domain Jake over in the chat there. He puts me in charge of things, and he regrets it constantly. So we'll see how this goes. But yeah. So
now
yes,
he tells me that. Now he tells me.
Let's crack these minis open, y'all. Let's see what we got here. I've been staring. It's been killing me to not open these as they've been sitting on my desk because I just love to have them out. And I'll be honest, it's a little bit weird for me to plan what I was going to do without taking it out of the box too. So.
Yeah, I definitely got the memo to not open it. This is the first time I'm opening it for sure.
Sounds like lies.
So, I don't know. Do we just we talk about what we're looking at, or we're talking about what our plans are? What are y'all planning to do with these orcs here? These half-orc
paint them.
Yeah,
Painting.
so
Right.
I think I'm going to do the bottom one, which is the one without the helmet, personally.
I'm doing the one with the helmet because I painted the other one out of that box last season by accident. So.
By accident. So right.
So I think
All right.
I'm
I
going
don't
to
know. Which one do I want to paint?
I'm definitely going to do the one with the axe raised, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I'm going too.
He looks.
Let me let's see. What does chat want me to paint? So. So we got scary guy with the helmet. I'll hold him up a little bit closer here. And scary guy without the helmet. So raising the axe. So I'm leaning towards this guy with the axe over his head. But I'll see if Chad has any different ideas. I'll give him a minute here.
He's got a lot of detail, and he's got this big kind of fur. This, I don't know, this big back fur. I don't know. There's no like head or anything, so I don't think it's a bear.
Yeah.
Or anything. But that looks cool.
Yeah, I think I want to paint him because I wanted to play around with some of these paints on the skin color a little bit, and there's a lot more skin to work with on this one. So
yeah, there's not a lot of skin on the other one at all.
No, not really. So, all right. Well,
Man,
sorry,
the
Chad.
helmet
I
guy's
told you to
main
tell me,
arm-
but I'm gonna make a choice anyway. So
Yeah, and this guy has a big nasty mold line on his shoulder, and that's gonna scare me when I start painting it.
oh yeah, which one? The
The
yeah.
helmet guy, yeah.
Yep. So you can always do what I do sometimes. I just don't clean my mold lines, and I know that's going to get me yelled at in some circles. But there's times where I'm just like, I don't want to mess with this today. And if it's a mini for me, then I don't feel like messing with mold lines, then I don't. Especially for something like this. These are minis that are most likely going to wind up on my from my home game stash, and I don't care if Jake sees my mold lines. So.
It's not a cape, he's just got a really hairy back.
So yeah, I mean, one thing I will say, WizKids has gotten really good the last few rounds, I would say, of putting those mold lines in really good spots, so you don't have to worry too much with them. But sometimes you just can't avoid it, and it winds up in a really nasty spot. So,
what's your normal method for getting rid of it if you do have a commission or something?
what's that? How do we get rid of it?
Yeah, what's the easiest way to get rid of it?
Yeah. So I don't know if V's watching or not, because if she'll yell at me. But I used a knife. At least this time I'm using a hobby knife with a handle. I have been known to just take the open blade and turn it upside down and use it that way. That's actually my preferred way of doing it, and I've managed to not slice my finger open. But I like the way I can control that. But I just like the back of a blade for most of it. It's it's relatively soft plastic. Just the back of a blade will take care of most of that work for you. I have a couple of files that I will use, and an emery board that's around here somewhere. My desk is a hot mess right now, though, so I don't know where my emery board is. But these ones, I think I'm just going to need to use the back of my knife here, because they're just right on the edge of a couple of spots. When I paint some of the other, like a GW mini or something like that that's coming out of them, you get some sprue marks or things like that that are a little bit harder to clean, or a little bit more involved to clean. So that's where I really get in with my files and memory boards and stuff. So.
Yep. Are they? I don't paint Warhammer. Is that a different type of plastic as well?
Yeah, it's I couldn't tell you the technical details, but it's a little bit harder plastic. I actually think it cleans up really, really nicely. Yeah, it's just tedious because you've got to cut everything off the sprues, and then you've got to just to set up a mini is half an hour probably, cutting it off the sprue, gluing it together, and then cleaning it. So. Not my favorite part, but I have a friend that hates painting and loves assembling, so usually I just let him put my stuff together, and then I just paint him some minis in return. So
Yeah, get me in contact with that guy.
Yeah. Everyone needs a friend like that.
Right?
So Joe's already jumped into painting. He's got his skin colour and away he goes.
What are you guys doing? I thought this was a painting show.
We're waiting for the instructor, Joe.
Oh, was that what we're doing? I'm supposed to tell you what to do? Paint things. So Well, so I'll just kind of walk through what I do. I'm going to start with, I like to paint outside or inside out. So basically the lowest points first, and then work my way back out. So I'm going to start with skin on this guy. And then I am going to paint, I've got three colors here. I've got scale 75 from their orc flesh, orcs and goblin paint. It's a slimer green goblin flesh and toxic waste green. What I'll do for this guy is I'm going to paint a base coat of the darker color, and then I will use the lighter colors to add some highlights. I'll probably use a wash to kind of blend all those together towards the end. And I'll do something similar with the furs and the leathers as well. But I like to start with this, the skin coat first, and then I'll work out to the leathers and the furs and the weapons and whatnot from there.
Cool. Sean TW is in the audience. Hi, Sean. You just missed us talking about you. But it was all good. I can't actually remember if it was when we was in there before we went live, but
No, it was after, I think.
It was during the stream when we was talking about the Sunday show.
oh yeah, that was it. I was going to say I've lost my paintbrush, but I found it.
Hopefully it's in your hand.
It wasn't. It was under the mini, but I have found it. I'm going to do that thing where I'm painting my paint tops.
I was watching a stream earlier where a guy was painting with his, like, it was his non-dominant hand, so his left hand. And because he got challenged by the stream to paint for the whole session with his left hand. So I think there would just be paint everywhere if I tried to do that.
For sure. So I'm not particularly careful with base coats. As I start to go more toward the outside, I get a little more careful. But I'm going to come back through with layers and multiple layers of coats and stuff. So as I layer it, I get more and more careful. But getting these initial ones on, I'm just getting stuff blocked in. Even this guy doesn't have a whole lot of skin on him, though. There's a lot more fur and leather.
Yeah, I think he's got thick layers on, hasn't he? So, Dwight, the Jake, your MTD partner in crime, he was on last week. He's been on a couple of times now. He's a great guy to have. Yeah. How did you guys meet? 'Cause we heard his side of the story.
Yeah, so Jake and I were right. We'll see how close we are.
Yeah.
Jake and I we're both bigger guys, and we both started running to lose weight and get healthy. This was well over a decade ago, and we were lucky enough to both be chosen for a community running team that does a big race up here in the town where we live. I was chosen one year; he was chosen the following year. And so I did it in 2012, and he was doing it in 2013, and I met him at one of the training runs. We actually we're one of the only times that I know of where two super good friends have a video of the exact moment that they met each other. So some of the people were, so what I was told was by the coaches and the team administrators was, oh, you've got to come meet this guy. He's basically this year's version of you. I'm like, well, that's a tall order for somebody to live up to. But yeah, so I went to this training run, and they're like, here he is. You guys got to meet. And so they were all videotaping us as we met each other. And so then we actually wound up living 10, 12 miles from each other, and would commute to these training runs together on the weekends up to this big city, because we kind of live out in these small towns. And we just, two nerds in a car for half an hour, round trip, hour every Saturday, started talking about stuff. And he mentioned Dungeons and Dragons one day, and I'd never played. I grew up in a very religious family, certainly was not allowed to do anything like this. And by the time I kind of, I grew up, moved out, whatnot, I didn't really know anybody that did any of this stuff. And so when he started talking about it, I was like, well, I need to play. So when you get a game together, let me know. And so we started a home game. He ran some games for me, and next thing I knew, I was DMing, and we just kind of took off from there. We have put together a whole bunch of projects in the past. We used to do a web comic, a couple different podcasts. We've thrown a bunch of crap at the wall over the years. And as Jake kind of started focusing on crafting and his YouTube stuff, I was always, kind of hanging out in the background, watching and supporting him. And then as I started to get more and more involved with my stuff, it just kind of worked out where last year, especially with Jasper's Game Week last year, with just the amount of work that goes into that, he was like, well, hey, why don't you just come on full time and we'll do this together. So that's kind of how our MTD partnership was born.
Yeah.
So,
You mentioned Jasper's Game Week.
yeah.
We're also doing that. We're supporting Meeples and Dragons in Australia. And myself, Joe, and Steve, we're all going to be appearing. We're not running a game. We're just going to be players.
Playing in them? Yep.
Yep.
Nice.
But it's the first time for us doing that. We wanted to do a little bit more, so we're really looking forward to it, actually.
Yeah, Jasper's is just a fantastic group. We love working with them. So Jake got involved with them a couple of years ago. I just kind of helped mod and stuff the first year that he did it, and then last year I got involved in the planning. They're a great group to work with. Just a real grassroots effort to, Fenway just started doing this because it was something she was passionate about, and it's just kind of grown from there over the years. Or 3 years really, but it's just gotten massive in the last couple of years. It's been really cool to watch. It's been really awesome to be a part of. So we had talked last year. It's like, hey, maybe next year we could do 24 hours. We're like, yeah, no, that's not. I mean, that the logistics of us doing that would be great. It's just not doable. But then when Meeples and Dragons and what is it? Advent, I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
But so we've got this, now we've got this international event going, and it's basically going to be running 24 hours for a week.
Yep.
And that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a again fantastic cause. For those of you who don't know Jasper's Game Day, check it out on socials. It's a fundraiser to help. Suicide awareness.
Teen suicide awareness. Yep. Yeah, it was kind of a cool event last year. We had, Jake had put the original stream week together, working with Jasper's, and it went pretty well. Raised a few $1,000s, and then last year we wanted to do it again, and didn't have any huge plans. We wanted to make it a little bit bigger, a little bit better. But then when COVID hit and all of the conventions started getting canceled, we kind of realized, because it's in May, so it's right around the time that people realize we're kind of settling into this. This is going to be a long time thing. This isn't going away anytime soon. And we were able to step in and kind of fill some of those gaps people were missing out on. They're like, hey, we want, we don't get to see, Chris Perkins at conventions or, see these D&D things going on. And we were able to step in and provide that and raise a bunch of money. I mean, we raised, I think it was a little bit over $50,000 total for the entire event, including all the pre-events and stuff. And really excited to see what year 2 has in store.
Good. Yeah, very well done.
See, Neofet is in the chat here. I know he's running a game. He's running a Star Wars game on May the 4th.
Oh, I heard about that. People in Discord, Jasper's Discord, were talking about that today. Well done.
Yeah. So Jay runs a Star Wars game on my Twitch channel every month, and Jay runs just a great Star Wars game. He's very well versed in the lore, understands the stories very well. And does a great job of weaving stories together. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with that Jasper's game.
I've never played the Star Wars. Is it the role-playing game you talk about?
Yes.
I've
correct.
never played. I've seen all the was it X-Wing Assault and the tabletop battle systems, but I've never played the role-playing game. So if you ever need a new beginner,
Yeah, I watched. Alan Patrick was guesting on one that I watched a couple of times. Yeah.
So yeah, I think we found us some players for season 2.
Yeah.
we've had Alan Patrick's been on Badgers a few times. So
I really
I'm sure
enjoy
he'd
it. I'm a
recommend
huge Star Wars fan, and it just lends the dice mechanics and the stats are a little bit. It's just there's a learning curve because it's not. It's kind of like what you're used to playing. When you play D&D 5e, most of it will make sense. But when you get into the dice mechanics and some of those things and how to build and level up, it's very different. And so so many games, like if you play Call of Cthulhu or you play Pathfinder or any of these other systems, they're still mostly the same language. And Star Wars really gets into some significant differences, so that's the hardest thing for people to get used to. But again, Jay's very good at bringing on new players and just getting them what they need to know to play to get started. And then the more you play, the faster you learn it. So. But it really lends itself well to role playing in that galaxy far, far away, which that's all I want to do. I just want to pretend to be in Star Wars.
Here.
Can you play as both sides, or is it just as the rebels?
You can play as anything, yes. So
is it
Jay
any?
runs.
I was going to say, is it any time period? Because like the latest computer game that's out, which one's that? From EA Games. Fallen Order, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's called kind of after the purge, and of course Mandalorian is really popular at the moment. So Neophet, I don't know your name, but yes, we if you want to run a game, we'd love to give it a go.
Yeah, you can. So the games are written in specific time frames. So like the Fantasy Flight games that we run are typically set in the original trilogy time frame. So the way that they're written, but you can run them at any time basically, because you just change your storyline a little bit. There's not a big difference in tech and things like that, so it wouldn't be hard to run an Old Republic or a sequel time frame using that rule set. So
Jay is saying
Hi,
that
Jay.
he runs Edge of Empire.
great.
Between episodes 3, New Hope, and episodes 5, Empire Strikes Back.
Yep.
Nice.
What I like about Edge of Empire is it's kind of like where The Mandalorian gets you into the other stories. It's very much about the people in the Outer Rim, and it's not about the Jedi, or it's very much about what's going on elsewhere. You can play a smuggler or a bounty hunter, and it's like the character that I play on the recurring series we do is an ex-mechanic who's kind of like working as a mercenary. So he worked on starships and now is an engineer that helps out the mercenary corps and whatnot. So you really get into the world versus because there's so much to play in Star Wars, but all we ever see is the Skywalkers. So
could be a Gungan.
Yep.
No.
The first time I ever played this was an offline game that Jay ran, and one of the players was the Gungan. So
That's like the bard that always sings in your party. The level of annoyance, I'm sure.
So Dwight, in terms of the miniature,
Yep.
I've done his skin. I don't know if you can see my screen, but I've done his skin.
Okay.
I've started doing brown on this kind of leather pauldron thing that he's got.
Sure. Yep.
But then I was just looking at his legs. There's quite a lot of different layers. What are your thoughts on the legs?
So what I am looking at these is I'm going in with a base coat of just a darker brown. And then what I will do is I will just start picking out some of these other layers with various lighter coats so that you can pick up both highlights and also different materials. And so you're just going to add some depth to it. The key for me with painting stuff like this, especially when you're newer, is don't worry so much about all of the details. Get your base colors blocked in, and then use just dry brushing and washes and basic and some layering to just pick out little things. Because again, you want this to look good from 3 to 4 feet away. And just pick out a few details. I like to, as I'm painting, I will, I get way up close, but I'll also kind of hold it at arm's length just to see what it looks like there. And that's what I use to determine when it's ready for a specific, because if I'm looking at it up close, I'll never stop painting it. Because you're always going to find things you don't like holding it up close. Even when I paint things at like high quality detail, I'm still judging its fitness at arm's length.
That's a nice idea, actually. I didn't think about that, but yeah, because yes, I mean the issue I have is I miss bits, so then you might have a bit of the original grey sticking out, or maybe I paint a pocket but it's actually skin or something like that.
Right.
And it annoys me, but yeah, okay, if it's on the arm's length,
that is a tough thing to overcome. My favorite mantra to that is "so what," because it is whatever you want it to be, and there's nothing you can't solve with a little bit more paint. Or and I don't mean you got to paint over it, but if you can throw some highlights on something, then you can change. Like if you paint what's supposed to be a pocket like some skin. Well, then throw some highlights on it, and maybe it becomes some of the skin, or maybe it becomes a patch, some patchwork on the leather or something like that. All of this is just fooling the eyes, anyways. You're painting shadows and highlights in places to just fool the eyes into thinking it's something that it might not be.
Sorry, I'm just laughing at the rage at me wanting to be a Gungan. And,
So I also have a question for both of you, for Dwight and Aaron. This is a question I ask all the guests who have come on and done some painting with us. Now I've never seen these before until I started this show, but there are these kind of like triangle brushes. So rather than a round stick brush that I know, they're kind of triangular.
Yep.
the handles.
Yeah,
right.
The handles are triangular. Have you seen them? Do you like them? Why are they triangular?
So I have some. I don't know if that's exactly, but I have these that are kind of this triangle grip.
Yeah, something like that.
So it's kind of a fat grip with a triangle finger spots. It's all about ergonomics, and I think so much of the tools are based off of personal preference because they all do the same thing to varying degrees.
Yeah.
And you can spend a lot of money on Kolinsky sable brushes to get you a super fine point and hold it forever, and hate the way that it feels in your hand, and then you just wasted $25 on a single brush. So much of these are based off of what feels right to you. Like this brush I'm using right now is a newer brush. I really like it's a Redgrass Games number 2, and I really like the brush itself, but I'm noticing that the body of this brush is very thin, and I don't like the I like a little bit heftier brush. So this is a brush that I picked up. It's see, this is number 3, Royal and Lang. I'm not sure, Royal and something or other. Picked up at Michael's for like $3. And I have a ton of just cheap brushes that I get from either Amazon or the local shop or whatever. This brush, the brush itself is not as good, the bristles, but I really like the way this feels in my hand. Yeah. So I paint a lot of the bigger details with that brush. And as I get more into where I need that point, I'll use a different brush. So I have a ton of brushes. But yeah, so back to your point, that triangle thing is just about ergonomics in your hand feel. And some people like that and some people don't. It's not something that's a big deal to me either way, so I don't really factor that into.
We've got another couple of questions in chat. First of all, Dave and Steve, how are you attaching those models to your paint, your holder?
The paint stick.
Blue tack. I use blue tack.
Yep.
And I do not use the bases that come with the minis. At all, ever. I have larger bases because I like to put a little bit of decoration on them, and I find that the ones that come with these minis are a little bit too small for that.
Yeah, I have the same thing.
It's very true, actually. And the other question was from Neophet, which says, how old is too old for paint? As in, how long would you carry on painting with it before it dries and to a point where you wouldn't use it anymore? I think that depends on the humidity of your room that you're painting in, surely, right?
Is that to me or to the art?
I think it's to the group.
Yeah, ask the amateur.
I keep using it as long as it still keeps coming out the bottle, and I will spend time thinning it until it goes on the brush. But that's just me.
I'm the same way. I will use it until it's gone, or until it's too viscous to get out of the pot. So I was a couple weeks ago, one of the painters, Petra, that paints with me on Thursday nights. She had some paints that were probably 20 years old or more. Some Citadel paints.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just keep putting fluid in there until it's no longer paint, and then I decide to throw it out.
Then you just make a wash out of it.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can use some heavy water ratio with the last little bit of paint at the bottom of your pot.
Yeah.
Then just make a wash out of it. Yep.
I was using blue tack too for my painting handle, but I recently tried out just mounting tape to it's a double-sided foam tape to hang a piece of art or something, or a hook.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been liking that because I don't need to take off little bits of blue tack that might remain on there.
That's a good shout, actually, because the blue tack does have a tendency to get in any of the textures you've got on the base, and be a bit of a pain to remove.
So, Erin, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How did you get the nickname Hamster? Is this a Dwarven Forge thing, or is this a superhero name? What is it?
On one of my first days, I had to resurrect a nickname from college because our other painter, there's 2 of us, and she is also named Erin, spelled the same way.
Right.
And she was there first, and I was brand new at my job, and they're like, well, we can't call you Aaron, so it's got to be something else. And of course, they're all being nice and joking around, but I panicked, and I remembered days of playing Halo in college when my friend was angrily referring to the opponents jumping around like little hamsters, and I just laughed so hard and said it all night long, and they all just started calling me hamster. So there at my brand new job, I said, yeah, a hamster. And they said, well, you can't go back from that. I mean, now that that's in the open, that's staying. And it's been 3 years now.
Wow.
there can only be one.
Well, it's funny because I've conditioned my brain now to when I hear people say Aaron in the office, I do not even feel the urge to
don't move.
right. But as soon as I leave the office, that's gone. But at work, yeah.
You don't even flinch. Aaron!
Oh, yeah.
No, it wasn't me.
Yeah,
Right.
that is not my problem.
Oh, Rabbit Burner says it could be worse. It could be Rabbit. No, wait, it is worse. Oh, of course. All right.
So with for those of you who are watching, doesn't matter if you're watching live or on YouTube. Hamster is part of Dwarven Forge, but also runs his own. Well, you call it the Hamster Hangout now.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more
Hamster's
about
Hobby
that?
Hang.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically I had a giant pile of shame, so I decided to make it part of my job to maybe start painting some miniatures that I own.
See, I call it the pile of shame as well.
Right.
And everyone else keeps telling me off. Everyone's like, oh, it's potential. I'm like, it's
Pile of
not.
potential.
It's really not
There you
potential.
go. Yeah, yes, I think someone else in our chat called it the pile of opportunity.
Yeah.
But, of course, I was like, hey, look, especially because we sell unpainted products, so there are painters among our fan base. I was like, hey, we are genuinely also gamers, also hobbyists, so it might be a cool way to, engage with the community and just kind of have fun, and we're not promoting anything, we're just straight up hobbying, and then I can knock some models off my list at the same time.
Yeah. That's the exact reason why we started on painting Warhammer on a Sunday, was just so I can actually paint my models, and I'm forced to sit down and do it.
Right.
And so you've got video evidence of using 3 colours.
Yeah, that's the one.
For me, the shame is not so much that they're not painted. It's in the money that I spent on things that have been sitting in a box for who knows how long.
Oh, but buying miniatures is a completely different hobby, and I'm very good at it.
I have, so I went through a phase, really back when I first started painting seriously, a few years ago. It was all about buying the boxes, the board games that had all the unpainted minis on them. So I have so many of those in this closet that have never been played, or have only been played once or twice, and the minis are just sitting there still not painted, or 1/3 painted, because I found something else. I'm like a squirrel with a shiny thing. So
yeah, I backed my first Cool Mini or Not board game, and I was like, I might as well go all in. It finally arrived, and the tower of boxes was almost as tall as I am.
Wow.
yeah, I've been good at not backing Kickstarters so far.
Oh.
Well, see, here's the thing.
How you doing on that front, Dave?
See, Dave is not only somebody who backs Kickstarter, he enables others to back Kickstarter as well.
Right.
Yeah.
He's
So with Kickstarter, you have the pile of shame, and then you have the phantom pile of shame. Right?
Yeah, the one that hasn't gotten here yet.
Yeah.
And the thing is Dwarven Forge is a Kickstarter company, right? So now all of my targeted ads for myself are miniatures Kickstarters, because I'm working on ours all the time.
See, I think that's the thing for me that saves me with Kickstarters, is it's I'm almost ready to push the button, then I see that will be ready by date, and it's usually 6, 12, 18, 24 months in the future. And I'm like, nah.
I think that's a good way to be, though, because I have backed a lot of Kickstarters, and I got Steve into it as well in 2019. However, it meant that during the bleak lockdown year, packages just randomly turned up. Before the ships got stuck in a traffic jam and there was no containers anywhere.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, what is this? I have no one to play them with, but I can look at them. And I've really gotten into Kickstarters big time.
that was me with 40K and Age of Sigmar. Is I had not painted. I'd always looked at 40K and been like, that looks great, but I was always intimidated by painting that aesthetic. But it was right before lockdown when I bought my first set, and that's been my project, is to learn to paint 40K poorly.
Yeah, I started with Warhammer Fantasy and eventually 40K, and that's like all that I knew. And so it's been really fun the past year or two to get into like the indie games and the smaller miniatures companies and try something a little different.
Yep.
Topulus is asking me, how's my Hellscape coming? A Kickstarter from Dwarven Forge that's a couple years old. Because I always get unpainted because I think I can get so much more. But then the trap is I have to paint it.
Right.
Yes.
But the joke's on you, Topulus, because I also haven't painted my stuff from the Kickstarter before that one.
So yeah, you got him.
Yeah.
Oh, self-burn, they're rare.
Right.
It's the...
So any day now, Dave and I've both signed up for the same Kickstarter, which is Blacklist Miniatures, and by the time that finished, I think it's over 200 minis that are coming our way.
Wow.
Yeah, unpainted.
Unpainted, yeah.
See, that's the only reason I backed that Upzone thing, was because it was all painted. I was like, yep, I'll have that. Thank you very much.
Was that like pop-up terrain?
Yeah.
Oh, I backed that too. I was like, because I know Dwight was saying he has kind of small space too, and I kind of don't have a lot of space either. And to have a whole battlefield, like basically in the size of a board game, was really appealing to me for like storage.
Yeah, I mean, like Radwan who's in chat just said he works for TT Combat, and I've got like 4 boxes, like massive boxes full of that stuff upstairs in my loft.
Yeah.
And just to have stuff just in a box that you can like just unfold.
Right.
Is seems really handy. But the only thing I don't like about Kickstarters is the waiting.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the waiting. I mean, it does feel strange. You buy something now and you wait a year.
Yeah.
But, last year was a bad year. And it was Christmas every couple of months. It was fantastic.
Right.
Yeah.
Mystery boxes just turned up. You're like, wow.
Yeah, but I'm really impatient, Dave.
I know.
Just like it triggers my impatience so badly. Like refreshing the page every single day. Like, have they had another announcement yet? No.
Yeah. All of us at Dwarven Forge, we wear a lot of different hats. I'm not painting year round, but so I ventured into the journey of the customer service tickets, and it's
I bet.
Unfortunate because thankfully we have new people backing, but they're like, hey, I'm new to Kickstarter. Has my stuff shipped yet? I'm like, oh boy, don't hold your breath. Yeah.
Yeah, you do have to have patience.
Got to give them the lowdown. All right, hey, listen.
Yeah. It will get there. Don't worry. Trust. Yeah, that's like, I knew when I backed it that it was going to be a year or so.
Right.
So.
Well, by the time it comes, you're like, oh great, that money didn't count. That was ages ago.
Right. Or when your wife's like, what is this that just showed up on the door? Oh, I bought that 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Trust me. Yeah, that money's fine. So.
Yeah, talking of which, do you ever get asked to include, like, in the shipping, like, congratulations, here's your prize? Because that's something you should add as an extra, like, do you want a page that basically says, this is a prize-winning thing?
Just Cracker Jack style.
Yeah. So you don't get aggro.
Yeah.
So my thing with Kickstarter is one of the very first Kickstarters I ever backed was for an RPG that never really materialized, and I've just kind of been skittish about backing them ever since because I just waited for years and years and it never got published. And I mean, obviously that's part of the risk of backing a Kickstarter, but I'm a lot more I'm hesitant, especially if I don't know who it's from. You know, like Dwarven Forge, I would back in a heartbeat if I had the space and the money for all the stuff. But there's a couple of publishers that I know that I would back their stuff. But if I don't know who you are, I'm much less likely to jump on board.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be good for me if that happened, so I would stop
Yeah.
backing them.
How many Kickstarters are you waiting on currently, Dave? Loaded question.
Whatever he says, remember to add like 5, right?
Yeah, basically. That's it.
I was going in for 10, and 10 is a lot. So if you add 5 to that, I would be in a lot of trouble.
Are you really in for 10?
I think so, yeah.
Wow.
There was one time when Dave messaged me and said,
check.
next time I say I'm going to put him on the Kickstarter, tell me no. And then literally, I think the next day he was like, I've just backed this.
Well, the worst one was, I was going to say the worst one was Beadle and Grimm. It was Icewind Dale, because I buy the platinum boxes. And I said to Joe, look, I bought Avernus, and then we went into, lockdown. Don't let me buy anything when Beadle and Grimm are on. And we were watching it live. And I think Joe came on late, or Steve came on late.
Oh, I came on late, and you bought it before.
And I bought it. And I literally said, look, whatever you, just stop me from buying, stop me from spending, buying another platinum. Yeah, and they didn't. So I blame them. And I told my wife I blame them. And I told my little boy he can't have Lego at Christmas because I blame them. So yeah.
I didn't need to buy it.
Yeah, I think that one of the only good things that has come out of lockdown this past year is that I haven't bought anything from Beadle and Grimm yet, because I can't bring myself to pay for it when I can't. Who knows when I'll actually be able to use it? But man, once my home game's up and running again, yeah, that stuff's right up my alley. I'll probably have a problem with those as well. It's been really hard to not buy a couple of those.
They to I don't think they're watching, so it won't matter. But to float their boat a little bit, they are good.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of them and they're amazing. I worked with them a little bit with Jasper's last year, actually. And so that was where I first was kind of turned on to what they were doing. I'd seen it a couple of times, but I finally, in working with them through the fundraiser, was able to see what they were doing. I'm like, oh yeah, this is bad for me and my wallet.
I recently did a good job of talking myself out of the Warhammer Quest Cursed City box, which looked really
I
cool.
didn't.
Yeah, but the only reason I then, like an hour later, was like, oh, fine, I'm going to get it. And the only thing that stopped me was they ran out.
So I went through that same thing where I was like, nope, I'm not going to buy this right now. But I wanted it. I knew I wanted it. And then I started hearing rumblings that it was going to be hard to get. So I reached out to there's a mail order service here that does a lot of, they're basically an LGS, but they do everything by mail. Like you email them what you want and they'll mail it to you. And I get a lot of my stuff from them. And they're like, yeah, we've got like 6 left. But they had driven to some LGS up in northern Michigan and bought from some place that had more than they thought they were going to be able to sell. And they bought like 20 of them at a premium. And then they just flipped them to me. I think I paid like $20 over retail for it. But yeah, like the day that it got delivered was the day that they announced they weren't making anymore.
Right.
So, and there was a part of me that was like, oh man, I could probably make a penny on this thing if I flipped it, but
yeah,
but I really want it, and I don't know that I would ever do that anyways. I can't. I hate that idea of like, oh, let me just go sell this thing that everybody really wants. And
love that comment. Don't let any of your wives watch a stream; they will kill you all.
that whole reselling thing has got a load of bad press.
Yeah.
Recently over the whole PS5 because you couldn't get them in the UK. We were sat there 9 a.m. on the day the
of
pre-orders
release.
were released to get it. But yeah,
Yeah.
scalpers have got
Mm-hmm.
pretty bad reputation there.
Yeah. Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, if it's kind of like in good faith, it sits on your shelf and eventually you pass it along to the hobbyists, it's one thing. But it's the people that suck all of them up.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Or, yeah, that's the worst.
Like my intention with my copy is to paint it, play it, and then if I decide that, you know what, this is not for me, I don't want to keep it, then I'll sell it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there will be somebody out there that wants. I mean, that's the nice thing about a lot of this stuff is there's somebody out there that doesn't want to paint it, but wants it, and.
Yep.
But I have a good enough gaming group that I have a feeling I'm going to get some mileage out of it. So.
Well, that was the other thing too. Is I was like, how likely is it that I'm actually going to play this game? Like, if I'm honest. So but right now I'm painting a friend's Blackstone Fortress, so I'm hoping that he maybe got a copy and wants me to paint it. That was one of the earlier Warhammer Quest things.
See, and this is where I'm in trouble because I'm new to Warhammer altogether, and I'd heard rumbling. I'd heard the term Blackstone Fortress before, but it wasn't until I found out about Curse City and had my copy that somebody was talking the other day about, well, if you really like that kind of thing, you can't get Curse City, you got to check out Blackstone Fortress. So I checked it out, and I'm like, well, there's another $150 that I don't need to spend, but I want to.
Well, I just where they're gonna get me. So they killed Warhammer Fantasy and made Age of Sigmar, right? That's fine. I'm not up in arms like some people are, but that was my first miniatures love. And then when they tease that they're bringing the old world back, oh man, am I gonna be in trouble? I'll tell you what. And I'm hoping it's not like there's people that think it's like the Horus Heresy equivalent, like the Forge World, really expensive resin stuff. That's like specialty. And I'm hoping it doesn't go that route because I know I'm gonna end up spending the money anyway. So I hope they're kind to me. Put it in plastic.
Yeah, plus it means you don't have to paint resin.
Right, yeah, exactly, yeah. Especially Forge World resin. But...
Painting through the nose for resin is the one.
Right, where are we going here?
So I have a mini question. What colour are people going to do the fur on the back, or have already done?
Sorry, go. No, you go.
I have two browns that I'm working with. I have a Dryad bark and a Minotaur hide. So this is a army painter. This is Citadel, and mine is actually a mixture. So this darker brown is what I'm used is the Dryad bark. This lighter brown is the Minotaur, and I just used a mixture of those two for the fur, and then I will probably dry brush into that.
So I'm going a little unconventional. I'm not doing bright green skin. I'm gonna do a darker, almost like Urukai looking skin.
Nice.
And so the leather is a little orangey just to contrast with this sort of purplish skin I have going on. So I decided to do sort of a bluish gray for the fur to kind of contrast from the warmer stuff going on.
Like that?
Nice.
I did brown on the one I painted previously, so this time I've gone grey and make it look like wolf pelt. Because I've tried to paint wolf pelt before and failed miserably, so I'm going to try it this time. See if I can get it to work.
So I was kind of going. In my head, I was thinking, oh yeah, it'd be like an Arctic owlbear, only because I was looking at the Icewind Dale stuff earlier. And then I just thought, no, it's going to be too hard. it'll be bear. It's just going to be a big brown bear.
Yeah, the stuff that we're painting at the minute is WizKids deep cut miniatures, and they are for Pathfinder, correct?
They
Yep.
are
Yes.
for Pathfinder, yeah.
And these are the iconic heroes, and this is the Male Orc Barbarian. So Jake was talking last week about applying washes, multiple washes. So going with like a sepia and then follow up with an umber wash, a darker brown wash. And he would do that to put different material features on the paint. I've never done that before or heard about it. Is that something you can explain how you would do, or how that makes leather look more leather-like, if you see what I mean?
So I use washes a couple of different ways. So the basic way is the way I think most people use it is what I call or a lot of people will call the liquid skill, where you just kind of brushing it on, letting it get into the crevices, and then and doing all of your shade work for you. And I still do that a lot for just like quick paints, fast paints. It's a really easy way to do that. But you can use it. I will layer. So what I'll actually do for him is I will use. I'm gonna use some layering on his skin. So to get progressively brighter, and then I will use a wash to come back through and it kind of like it'll blend those colors back together, almost like a glaze. So that's one way you can use it, and then you can use it to darken or lighten or blend colors on materials, and you just be judicious about where you put it so that it can weather certain materials like leather or whatnot. It just depends on what you're going for. And I tend to not use it too terribly much anymore, because I like to just, I use it on just about every mini, but instead of just like slopping it on and letting it run, I'm more like picking spots where I want it to be.
Right.
So I don't know if that's what you were asking, but
yeah. So
Okay.
you're being selective in where you're applying it, and you're using those two different shades just to
right.
darken or lighten certain patches.
Thank you to Laura Bones for raiding. Nice to have you again.
Hello.
Nice.
Now, we've been taught a couple of different ways by different artists that we've had on. Some dry brush before putting the wash on, others dry brush after. Which way do you prefer to do it?
Yes. Both. And again, it depends on what I'm trying to do, and how bright I want those highlights to be.
Yeah.
Because and it depends on the size of the mini also. So like if I'm doing a larger mini, a lot of times I will dry brush layers and get it nice and bright, and then I will come back over it with a wash or a glaze to bring the colors back down, and then we'll go back over it with just a little touch of dry brushing. So I've used it both ways, and sometimes both ways on a single paint. This one I will probably do a post-wash dry brush. But again, it depends on how much I'm trying to do with it as well. If you're just going for something that looks nice, usually I'm going to post-wash dry brush. But if I'm looking for something that's got a lot of depth and layers to it, then that's where I'll typically do both.
Right. Question for both of you, actually. How long have you been painting for?
Well, let's see. I got into it, boy, I was about 10 years old when my cousins brought the Warhammer Fantasy rulebook over to Grandma's house, and I saw my first photographs of fully painted miniatures on a battlefield. And then every gathering after that, I would say, "Did you bring the book?" And then finally one holiday, they gave me my first little blister of Warhammer and the bright red Citadel brushes at the time. And then I think, which I found was kind of a common story, right? I did it all the way through high school. Then I took a break. I was going to college. I was moving around and all that. And when I finally got to Dwarven Forge, I probably hadn't painted for like 7 years, 8 years almost. And that was 3 years ago now, and I've just been painting like crazy since. I remember they said, because they were interviewing like art students and stuff too. They said, "All right, can you send us your portfolio?" I was like, "My what?" all I had painted was miniatures. So there are YouTube videos that exist for me of me in high school, like showing off my models. So I ripped that off YouTube and cut it apart and muted the sound, so it's not just my voice like, "Hey guys, what's up?" and I sent that in. But then I went in for a paint test, and I was nervous because I was like, I haven't done this in ages. The only reason I got it is a friend of a friend was talking to this guy I know, and we've talked about D&D, so I talked about painting, and they said they were looking for someone to paint. But when I saw the colors and I saw the little piece of terrain, I just had that moment of like, I know exactly how it's done. It just kind of came back to me, and I was hired for a month, and that month has lasted 3 years, so thank goodness.
Nice. Been a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, similarly for me, I've only been painting minis for about 4 years, but I've been painting miniatures in the form of like models and stuff. I used to do a lot of like aircraft models and car models and stuff like that. But same thing, like through high school and then a couple different times as a young adult. But then again, having gotten into D&D and just wanted to continue that hobby, I decided to try. I actually bought Reaper's Learn to Paint kit about 4 years ago. Yes, it was 4 years ago in January is when I started, because I saw the social media memory this year. And actually I have it right here. Where'd I put him? This is the first mini I ever painted.
Oh,
He
nice.
is god-awful looking. Where is he? I actually have 3 of the same model. Here he is. That's him. So again, just a Reaper Bones. I think this is an orc. Yeah, he's terrible looking. But yeah, that was the first one I ever painted, and I did it 2 more times. I did status report minis, so this was a year later where I painted this version of him, and then 2 years ago I painted this version of him, just to track progress. I need to do another one. But yeah, so that was started painting about 4 years ago, and it very quickly realized, okay, this is kind of, it's very zen for me. I just like to just zone out and just chill after a long day of work and just paint for an hour or two.
Yeah.
And that's how it's become something that I do almost for a while. There was almost every day. This surprisingly in COVID I've painted less, I think, because again I live in this room. But yeah, that's kind of my journey to get here.
Well, similarly, I keep swiping up my first model, like other blisters of it that exist on eBay. And my dream is to see. We were gonna go to Adepticon because I'm getting everyone into wargaming at Dwarven Forge, right? They're all RPG guys, and I love that. I was like, guys, you gotta try out some of the stuff, and they're enjoying it. But so we were gonna go to Adepticon, the first one back in America in how long, right? And then of course everything got canceled. But my dream is to for like the first Golden Demon back in the States, I want to enter, a new version of the first miniature I painted. Not even to really compete necessarily, but just to like say I did it because I grew up looking at all the entries and stuff, and just for sentiment.
Right.
I have a Dwarven Forge question. Do you know, in terms of Dwarven Forge, Have you ever come over to the UK?
I haven't myself. No. Oh, for Dwarven Forge.
For Dwarven Forge as a whole, as a company, have they come over to the UK?
We have not, and I know there's like a bunch of wargaming over there.
Yep.
I mean, it's growing in the US, but like it's mad over there, right?
Yeah. I mean, but we've only got two. There's two main conventions that I know of, which is the UK Games Expo, which is like a whole weekend or a week up in Birmingham, and then we have Dragon Meet, which is like 1 day, 2 days down in London. But we're from doing this. We've only been doing this type of streaming since last August, like with games and things.
Yeah.
And where we help to promote other people, we're now talking to various companies. We're talking to publishers, manufacturers, all that kind of stuff, and just talking about the stuff that they do. We were talking to Level Up Dice, who have actually been over to the UK, but I've never seen them in person until they sent me like a sample of their dice. And the Dwarven Forge, I've seen the videos, I've seen the Kickstarters. It looks beautiful, amazing, but I've never seen it in real life. I've never picked up a piece and held it. I was just wondering, is there any plans that you know of for Dwarven Forge to come to a UK convention when we all open up?
Well, first of all, if you have a problem with Kickstarters, Dave, you don't want to see it in person because you will be broke. You'll be sold. But, the thing is that we do these big, grand Kickstarters, and sometimes, people think we're this huge company, but we're actually really, really small.
Yeah.
Like when I first got there a few years ago, I was like the 7th person in the office, and we have a number of remote people, but we're continuing to grow, but we're not, we're not going to be Amazon anytime soon.
Yeah.
Which sometimes surprises people just because we do these big, massive projects. So that is to say, we kind of have been just trying to nail our couple of conventions, and we are learning as we go. Well, not this past year, but like we're figuring stuff out and learning what like works for us. And I definitely like wouldn't put the idea past us that eventually we'll expand into that realm. But for now, I think, especially as we open up, we'll probably just do like our couple mainstays that we're familiar with and really get our routine down.
Mm-hmm.
And but obviously, the hope would be to be at every single convention ever, right? Just to get it out as much as possible. So,
I suppose that's the benefit of Kickstarter is that you're saying that you're not as big as Amazon, is that you can get the funding to do the big things that you want to do prior to actually building the product, I suppose.
Exactly, because like the most expensive part really is like it's not the fun stuff that we're doing in the office and all the design. It's the big giant metal molds that we have to make for the pieces, right? So when we've all designed it and we got some prototypes and it looks really cool, then we have to make the thing that has to make it.
Yep.
And that is the pricey part. So that is
so I mean
a lot of what the Kickstarter funding goes to.
One of your guys on your hamster show was he's got this corner building that he's making out of clay.
Oh yeah.
That is amazing. He's got this tree just kind of growing up the side of the building. Is that like a prototype, and then that would be turned into a mold, or is that just for fun?
So here's the thing. Like I said, a lot of people wear different hats, and that's Toby, who's kind of like our technomancer. He's the one that finds the ways to put the LEDs into stuff to make the foggers work, the effects work.
Mm-hmm.
And he has, just because, like I said, the company has been really, really small, so he would do a little bit of sculpting, or mostly like blocking to like prepare the bit of clay in the right measurements for the sculptors to sculpt on it.
Mm-hmm.
Which, of course, he's picking out this clay. Eventually he's going to start sculpting. So he's been doing some of that and has contributed sculpting for a while. And so now we're kind of in this slower season. We're kind of not in the heat of a Kickstarter. So he's just trying to shore up that skill a little bit and get some practice in. So that's not a prototype for a Kickstarter. But it's funny that it's funny that you get to learn a lot of cool stuff on the job, just because we need people to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Nobody does one thing.
Yeah, many hats and whatnot.
Yeah.
We got a mini terrain domain is in chat, so I'm assuming that's you, Jake. But he's saying that the dream is to have a full table of Dwarven Forge.
Yes.
So you go, network, Jake, network. I'll hold the door open. Go, go, go.
Yeah, Jake and I have a lot of. We're actually kind of excited this year. We had started talking last year about doing some conventions, and then obviously that got shot down. But this coming year, that's one. Hopefully, towards the end of this year or into next year, we can actually start getting out and meeting some of these people we've been able to interact with.
Yeah.
And whatnot. But yeah, that's networking is just key, especially when you're dealing with a lot of small. I mean, there's so much cottage industry in this, in around D&D and tabletop. Yeah, you've got some big suppliers, but I've even found, like, we were talking about that. Aaron, you were talking about how Dwarven Forge isn't really that big of a company, and we realized that last year because we met. Stefan ran a game last year at Jasper's, and but yeah, there's so much out there that's it's just a few people running stuff. I mean, heck, Mini Train Domain, we produce some major stuff, and we're just two guys basically on our back porch, doing something we love, and there's a lot of that out there, and those conventions are a time for us to all get to know each other and shake hands and whatnot. So looking forward to actually getting to do that, hopefully before too terribly long.
Definitely.
All right.
And as far as getting a whole table of Dwarven Forge, part of what I've been doing is doing some configurations of sets. Well, for war games, and what are we playing war games on? We're on battle mats, right? So like, how can you get away with fewer pieces of Dwarven Forge that can kind of bank down to your battle mat, so you can cover more with like fewer pieces? You're not going to necessarily have the fully sculpted. You're not going to have a 6x4 fully sculpted, right?
Yeah.
Unless you want to. But I'm trying to develop some sets that can cater to that a little more, and can maybe be a little bit more accessible as a price point, and be usable on larger areas like that. So looking forward to some of that. There's some stuff in the works.
There's some stuff that we've been doing. So for the Runelords stream, the game stream, I started using WizKids Warlock tiles.
Oh yeah.
With Vorpal board.
Oh sure.
And it's been good, and it's just not the whole dungeon. It's just one particular room, like the main room where the big fight's going to be, and concentrate on doing it. And that's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed kind of learning how to do it and put it all together. But when I'm using Beadle and Grimm maps, because I've gone back to using big paper maps, which are nicely drawn, nicely painted, but battle maps. What I want is things like obstacles that can obstruct vision, so line of sight. Right. So boulders, trees, stalactites.
You're speaking
fog.
My language.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I did. So Steve will kind of know this because I've slapped him on the hand afterwards. But in the past few shows, I've done it like a computer game. So I have like red barrels placed around the battle map, because I'm thinking, they'll shoot them, they'll explode them. Out comes a fireball. I can change the environment, and they never did. They run in. There's a bad guy. I'm like, there's a switch over there. There's a lever over there. There's a red barrel. Use the environment. And I literally had some, whichever the hanging ones are, stalactites, on the floating platform, and then stuck them underneath with blue tack. And as the camera, like the Vorpal board, is looking down into the dungeon, it was just trimmed in such a way where these, frosted things were hanging down off the ceiling. And it looked amazing. I was really impressed with what I did.
It did look amazing. Yeah, it did
on,
look amazing.
On a very basic level.
But I mean, that's another sort of discussion point, really, is how do you provoke your players to move around the battle map,
to move a battle
rather than just stand there and
hit it.
Just like you do everything else for your players, you force them to dirt.
But I'll tell you what, in general, I think that's like the magic of just having terrain at all for RPGs, and I love the magic of Theater of the Mind games, but like there's just sort of sometimes when you can see everything at once, there's you can have some different creativity that happens.
Tactile.
Yeah.
And seeing a well crafted or well thought out terrain piece is it really is a game changer for gaming. I think. I mean, Theater of the Mind is great, and I think it's my preferred way to play. But there is something very special about. I still remember the first time playing. Jake made one of the first games I played, and he made a dragon burial ground out of some like old dinosaur bone kits and stuff, and it was just like excavation of a dragon burial ground kind of thing. And he drops this down on the table, and I was just floored, like holy crap. And when you see those things that are, whether it's a high quality piece that you buy, or that if you're an expert crafter like Jake, that you can put together, or you're just somebody that's playing around at home, but you think it out, and it really does make a huge difference to what that game becomes on the table.
I've used so one of the last, I think it was actually the last map I did, which was a couple of weeks ago, was I used campaign coins. And what I did, I had these little pillars. I don't know who made them, and stuck.
It was DMB.
DMB from the UK.
DMB ones, yeah.
And then stuck coins to them, because they're different shapes, to act as if they were giant shields in this dungeon chamber. And it was really nice. And then I saw, so that I did that, and then V Muse was doing something on Mini Mayhem. I think she was doing Warlock tiles, and she showed like a layout, and I was like, oh, that's perfect. That's exactly what I need for this week's show. So I copied that, and then I think I saw something on Dwarven Forge. Like Dwarven Forge feature players who have made their layouts and their table layouts,
Right.
and
Yep.
I don't know if it was Dwarven Forge or if it was like a customer or a fan. Someone had done. I think it was a boat flying through the clouds.
Yeah, it was
And it-
like the Eberron flying vessel
Yeah.
thing, wasn't it?
And
Yeah.
the clouds were just cotton wool. And then using those invisible kind of risers. And I thought that was such a fantastic idea
Right.
that I used the idea of the clouds for fog. So when they come into this dungeon, they've got all the coins everywhere, everything was shining, but they were surrounded by fog. So I just dumped a load of cotton wool on them, and it worked fantastic. I was really impressed with the very, very simple effect.
Again, so much of it is just tricking the brain into seeing something that you want it to see.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be realistic. It just has to hint at it. And as like when you're talking minis and tabletop stuff, it's to scale. You're not going to see all the detail, but your brain's going to fill in the gaps. And if you can get it close, our brains are just hardwired to solve that puzzle and fill it in. So I will tell you, like, Jake and I have talked about this when people look in, when I've shown people minis, and they always seem to point out the effects that I get with the simplest techniques.
Right.
Like
right.
dry brushing is the one, like dry brushing technique floors so many people that don't know anything about painting, because they're like, I can't believe you took all this time to paint all those details. I'm like, I didn't. I just dragged a brush across it and it picked out the high spots. So, but again, our brains see that and they think that, oh, you must have just gone through all of those lines with so much care and precision.
Yeah, like one of my favorite recent miniatures, I was kind of doing like a guy holding a torch like in Moonlight. And so I did this, I spent a lot of time on the OSL, and just from the lighting, like half of the miniature is almost just not lit and not painted hardly, but it's just has this really striking effect on it.
Right.
That like draws the eye, and it looks super cool, but with like not a lot of effort really.
I think that's something that's easy to get caught up on as a mini painter too. It's trying to paint all of that detail to make it look exactly like you want it to. Whereas a lot of time, like you said, just a little dash here is all you need.
Yeah.
So, and that's where the repetition comes in. You know, just doing it over and over and over again to see what works and what doesn't. And
I can definitely agree with that. Again, this is the whole purpose of this show is to paint that box of shame. and when, like, you know, Joe is saying, oh yeah, you can do this, it's easy. I'm like, yeah. But then where I came up with the idea for this show is to, you know, get artists like yourself to show me how to paint. But definitely, I mean, yeah, I mean, if it's what's this? This is our 9th episode of painting. So this is my 9th attempt at painting, and that's what, 2 hours a week. So I've definitely gotten better, and I've definitely learned. I'm definitely less nervous about painting. And it's really interesting learning everyone's kind of tips and tricks and how they approach the various painting problems. You know, there's lots of similarities with what everyone is doing.
Yep. For me, one of my favorite things about painting is just figuring stuff out on my own, and everybody's going to be different. My son he likes to draw things, and his preferred way of doing art is replicating. He likes to see what somebody else did and try to replicate that.
Yeah.
I'm much more experimental. Like I like to see when somebody has done something. I like to see what they've done. I like to have it explained. I like explanations as to why it worked. Like I take classes from experienced professional painters, and they can tell me this is why. I don't have any art background. I didn't go to art school. I couldn't tell you anything about color theory, but I'll take a class where somebody can explain that to me just so that I understand why it works. And then I immediately flush the why, because I've already learned that it does work. So I couldn't tell you, like I've taken color theory classes and things like that. I couldn't tell you a lot of the stuff as to why it works, but I like having it explained why it works so that then I will trust that it does work afterwards. But you just, again, for me, it's just a matter of getting out there and trying things, seeing what works. Don't be afraid to mess up. You got that big box of shame or the pile of shame. Grab some minis that you're not connected to and just try things on it. And then when you mess up, try to figure out why you messed up.
That is one of the hardest things, right? It's like miniatures can be expensive, and you want them all to look really cool, like because you care about them. And there's just some that you kind of have to devote to practice, right? And accept that they might not be your best ones. And I also like to try something new each time, whether it's a technique or a different paint or a different brush, and just like not fall into my same habits and try something new. And that's usually when the most exciting thing. It's the most fun then, because you're like, wow, I didn't even expect that. It just like I just figured it out.
Yep. Probably my favorite mini that I've painted is one that I painted as I'm just gonna try some stuff with this one, and it worked out. I sat down. I was like, I'm gonna take my time with this thing, and I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna use some of these techniques that I've seen recently, that I've learned recently. I'm gonna push myself with it, and I wasn't. And I figured, okay, if I mess up, it's not. I mean, it's a few bucks ultimately, not a big deal. And I just allowed myself to screw it up, and it wound up being one of my favorite projects by the time I was done with it. And it's not always going to be the case, but you've got to allow yourself room to make mistakes, or you're never going to learn.
Yeah, it's strange. I mean, it's definitely something I've enjoyed doing. And it's very, you get like that kind of zen moment. You know, the brush off. Yeah, there's a little bit of competitive edge, but it's just for bragging rights, really. So you know, it's not a speed run per se. It's not about finishing the model, but it is. It feels when we do a hangout, it feels a lot more relaxed.
Right.
You know, it does feel like
we're not competitive, honest.
Shush you, go back to work. So yeah, it's but it's good. It's all good fun. I'm just enjoying it, as you say.
I've just seen a massive patch of white that I've totally missed.
Mine are the weapons.
Oh, I knew I'd missed that bit out, but there's a bit on one of the hands. It's just like totally white. Oh, and his hair. Dirt. It's all going well. How long we got left, Dave?
About 15 minutes.
you joking?
We
Are
are
you joking?
down. No,
No,
we
I'm
have
not.
gone half past.
Do you know how I know that? Because Alexa turns my lights out at 10:30.
Oh, is that
That's-
your
that's
early
a-
warning, is it?
That's my early warning, yeah.
Yeah. What Steve failed to say was we're already 35, well, now 36 minutes past. So
Yeah, that was 5 minutes ago, sorry.
you have 10 minutes left.
Did you say 15 minutes, Dave?
No, I said 10.
At this stage, whether it's 10 or 15 really makes no difference because it's not an hour.
I might go get the hairbrush out.
That's a good question. Dwight, do you use an airbrush or do you always use just paintbrush?
I was
I
a
have-
hairbrush.
Surprisingly, I do have to use a hairbrush now. I haven't cut my hair in a year, and it's the longest it's been in my life by a long shot. So yeah, I use a hairbrush quite frequently. But no, I actually just recently bought an airbrush, so I'm still learning how to use that. But yeah, that is something that is when you have a giant list of things that need to be painted. That was a big reason why I wanted it. I wanted to be able to just go through and base coat a whole bunch of minis. My buddy that does the assembly for me basically gave me 1,000-point 40k army and is like, here, paint this. So that would take me a year to paint just on its own if I started from scratch. So I wanted to be able to just learn how to use an airbrush for base coating.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been playing around with that a little bit.
Is it noisy?
It's really not. I have it's called a whisper quiet air compressor tank. And yeah, I mean, it kicks on. It makes a little bit of noise when it's on, but it's not obtrusive or anything. And it kicks on, and then it's got a tank that stays filled until the pressure drops too low, and then it kicks back on again.
And do you use it for particular things? Like, is it batch painting terrain, or is it?
So basically, what I've done with it so far, I have batch paint, mostly just base or priming and base coating batches of minis and larger minis. So I don't have them nearby here, but I'm painting a giant size, one of those, what are they, 6-inch tall WizKid. It's can't remember which one. It's one of the demons from the Wave 13, I think.
Is that Orcus, or is that smaller?
It's the big. He's like big furry demon with horns. Looks like that character from Labyrinth.
The Bahamut thing.
No, it's not. I can't remember the name of him. Hold on. I've got him here. This is why I need Jake in the chat, but I think he left us.
Need to brushing. The world is your lobster. Yes.
I can't think of it off the top of my head here, but yeah. Anyways, he's a big guy, super furry, he's just covered in fur. And to paint base coat, prime and base coat that mini with a brush would have taken me an hour or more, and probably ruined a couple of brushes with all of the texture from that fur.
Right. Yeah.
And being able to do it with an airbrush, I did prime and base coat in a combined total of about 5 minutes, maybe. So it just speeds it up so much more. I did what's the name of it? I'm terrible with names if you haven't figured that out yet. I have an Age of Sigmar, the big fire-loving dwarves that ride dragons.
Oh yeah, the Fire Slayers, I think, right?
The Fire Slayers, yeah. But so one of this big dragon thing that they ride, and I coated that. I primed it. I base coated it in black. I went over top of it with like 4 different layers of reds and oranges, and just blended those colors together. It took me about 15 minutes. It would have taken me probably 3 or 4 hours to do that same technique by hand.
Yeah,
but like anything else, it's going to take some practice to get good at it. So,
Rabbit Burner in chat said that he's done a whole Necron army in simple paint schemes solely with an airbrush, which you can.
Yep.
I think once you get good at it, you can probably just knock stuff out, right?
Just knock it out. Yeah. Yeah. Right now, I'm still learning, the right techniques for it, but I can definitely see.
I think I spend as much time cleaning my airbrush as I do using it at the minute.
Yep.
I hear that.
Mine took me about 2 months to be able to use it the first time, because the first time I just like took it apart to see where all the pieces were. And no, I'm sorry, it wasn't that. I took it apart to see where the pieces were, but I realized because I have a Badger Patriot, and it needs a adapter to hook into the airbrush hose, and it was where the adapter was screwing in was getting stuck, and so when I unscrewed it, it unscrewed the housing that it was trying to attach to, and all these pieces came falling out of it. And they're all like, it was like 3 of these tiny little, half the size of a pea kind of things, and one of them it's on my floor somewhere. I haven't found it yet, but it rendered it useless. So I had to wait like a month for it to it's like 2 or 3 weeks to figure out, get that replacement part shipped to me. And so it took me a good like 6 weeks from the time that I ordered my airbrush to the time that I was actually able to use it for the first time. And
someone
then
chat is saying the Garistro.
Garistro.
That's Jake. Jake is there.
Oh yeah. See, I knew Jake would know.
Yeah, just like anything else, you just have to accept the fact that there's a learning curve and you're gonna mess up and just keep trucking along.
Yeah.
And the thing is too is like it really is. You can get similar results with a brush. It doesn't like necessarily do anything absolutely magical. It's just about efficiency, really. Better with it.
I think for me, I just need to thin my airbrush paint more than I think I need to thin my airbrush paint.
Yep.
If that makes sense. Like I thin it down, and then I'm like, that's far too thin, and then it's probably needs to be like double the amount that I've put in there.
Yeah, that has been the hardest thing for me across all forms of painting, is figuring out the right thickness for my paint.
Yep.
That probably took me a good 2 years to feel comfortable with paint thickness.
Well, and especially like we were talking about trying different brands, and then you kind of got to start over with their qualities.
And how does that react to your palette? Do you use a wet palette or a dry palette or a cold palette? And how does that paint react to whatever your preferred use is? And when you change materials, then all of those factors change with it. So.
So we are down to the last minute.
Oh man.
You what?
Got real quiet there all of a sudden.
Yeah, we're in the zone.
Oh yeah.
Right?
And I'm a judge.
Yeah.
So hopefully, Aaron, if we haven't put you off too much, we're coming on and talking crap all afternoon for you. Yeah, we'll see you again well, we're gonna. The idea is we've already been signed off to do a season 3, so we'll see everyone again for season 3. But also, Dwight, we've already got you listed for some games. Erin, if we can get you listed for some games as well.
That'd be great.
You know, you don't just have to come on and paint. You can stretch your legs a bit.
Absolutely.
So Groovy Sounds is asking, is Vallejo thickness different from Citadel, for example? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the Citadel stuff's a lot thicker, isn't it?
And you
Yes.
sometimes even have to like get used to different colors in your favorite brands, because like the
Yep.
pigments are different. They're all going to behave differently. So like it's really
Just-
going to be a case by case basis.
Learn to hate white at all time.
And yellow.
Yeah,
Yellow
what you'll
is
learn the
awful as well.
fastest is your least favorites.
Right. Mm-hmm.
The black paint in the Vallejo set is so thin. It really is.
Yeah, I started painting with dark green, and that was so thin that I actually changed to a different green.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, and time. We've actually gone over a little bit there. I gave you extra time.
I think your clock's fast, Dave.
Right. We just give everyone a little minute to clean off their brushes and do bits and pieces like that. But what we will do now, we will ask. We will go through. We'll change the cameras. This is for everyone at home. And we'll check out what both Dwight and Erin have done first. And then we will go through and we'll do it in order like we've been doing so far. So it'll be myself, then Steve, then Joe. And then Dwight will get to pick this week's Star Painter. While you, the audience, will get to pick the runner-up along with Erin. Okay? Erin doesn't have to listen to you, no matter how many channel points you spend.
No. We outnumber them. I'm with you all in the chat.
But if Erin wants to come back...
Oh, right.
Don't worry, if you're playing on Avernus, you'll get all of the magic items.
I'm a double agent.
Yeah. You got Chris London is booked in for he's booked in for both Runelords and Avernus. So yeah,
Oh, great.
Who on your we mentioned your hamster hangout. Who was the one who was doing like a giant panda head? What was that?
That's amazing.
What's that for?
She's designing this like merch brand. She's doing like t-shirts and stuff, and she was like painting, it's like a monkey thing, and she got this mask that she's gonna paint, and she wants some of us to model in the clothing wearing a monkey mask.
Oh, I thought it was a
it's
panda.
brilliant.
It's a monkey. Right, I thought it was a panda.
Well, now I gotta pitch it to her. It better be a panda. You know?
Just do it. Or a badger.
That's
Go
her
for a
choice.
badger. That'd be even better.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. There you go.
There
I
you
mean,
go.
my boat was hamster, but that got shot down. No.
Right, I am going to switch over to, so for you watching at home, I'm just going to switch cameras so that we are all there. There we go. And Dwight, I am going to pin you so that you are big on the screen. There we go. And if you could talk us through your miniature, please.
So yeah, so I would say I got a good bit done for hour and 45 minutes or so. I got layering done on his skin here. So again, I just got 3 different colors of green that I just layered out. I actually really added a 4th because I added some white to really lighten that down, and then went over it with a green wash. And basically the same technique for everything else. The browns just layered on highlights, and then went over it with a wash. And then I've dry brushed over top of each of those here. So yeah, and then just use some metallics, different layers metallics, dry brushed over a black for the blade on the axe, which is kind of my go-to speed paint for metallics. I like to just I'll go with a black or a brown base coat, and then just dry brush over top, layers over top of that for the different metallic colors, and I just like the way it gives kind of it's an easy way to get a worn metal look. You're done. So yeah,
that looks nice. Well done.
That's him. So
right, let's remove that one, and let's see, Aaron, where's your camera? There it is. We shall pin that. There we go.
Am I on?
You are on. There we go.
All right. Well, similar to what Dwight was saying about base coats, is I like a lot of the leather. Like I didn't differentiate a lot of the materials. I just like covered large swaths with this stuff, and made sure it all reads. So I didn't necessarily do some of what we talked about of picking out different details. I just kind of make sure you can see the edges of different things, and just kind of let the 3-color, standard sort of do its thing. I added a little bit of red to the eyes, but even on the metal, just for time, I decided to go with the cold gray for the fur, and so I just base coated that same thing on the metal, and just at the very end of the last minute, I didn't even do the back because you're typically looking at it from the front, right? I just dotted some pure white on what I wanted to be metal over the gray, and I think it differentiates it enough for my taste for the amount of time spent. So
right.
And I liked not only just because we've seen a lot of green orcs, but I did a different skin color just because if I'm going fast, a sort of grittier, earthier tone is I kind of like the result better for a speed paint sometimes, so that's kind of why I chose that.
That purple and green combo is really that looks really good.
Yeah, that is.
What color purple is that?
So I started with African Shadow, which is not super purple; it's almost like a purple brown. But as I layered that up, I then just glazed it with a violet.
Oh, nice.
Violet paint. I could also maybe use an ink even, but just a thin glaze in the shadows because it almost looked like a human skin tone. So I wanted it to be a little more fantastical. So I did a pure violet over some of it to make it a little more purple.
Nice.
But one of my favorite colors is ice yellow. The thing of like highlighting with ivory as opposed to white. This kind of takes it a step further, and it's a little yellower, and so I just dry brushed everything, and I just kind of find for speed paints, if I highlight almost everything in that same color and then glaze over it, I kind of find that to be a universal speed paint color for me recently.
Nice
Tip.
Cool. I really like that colour choice. That is
right.
Thank you. Straight that colour choice.
So we're going to go round. It'll be me, then Steve, then Joe. Now remember, Dwight gets to pick the star painter, but you at home, along with Aaron, get to pick the runner-up. So pay attention. There's everything to win. So let's give this. It's just bragging rights, but hey, let's give this a go. So I went with the Hulk look. So I went green skin. I'd used 3 different browns: a dark brown, a medium, and a light. You might be able to see it there. And then I've just added a kind of wash to it. I've done both weapons are just in metal all the way. It's gun metal grey. But quite nice. The wash has really picked up the furring effect very well. And I tried to get a little bit red in his mouth. There's no way I could do his teeth. The back of the picture, the back of the box shows like these giant pearly whites. There is no way. I mean, it's like a speck of dust how small that space is. This is a Bic pen. There is no way that I can do his dentistry.
Some people do use pens, right? Those like fine nib pens.
I have these. I have one, so I don't know if you see that or not. But yeah, these super fine pens you can use for certain things. I don't know that would work on those teeth either, though.
No.
Yeah.
For certain like little small dots and stuff, I've dipped the end of a mechanical pencil into paint and tried that.
Oh wow! So that's my one. Then we'll do Steve. Where's Steve on? Steve's there. Here we go.
No, that's me.
Okay, so I haven't done the weapon in his right hand, so that's still white. I've had to do the other model because I'd already painted the other one. That's down there on the desk. Let's get that back into focus. Yeah, so I did brown on the leather brown on the leggings, and then I did some darker brown for the belt, and just see that across the chest just, and then a different brown for the belt pouches, if you like, just to try and stand them out. And I did some bands on the boots in the charred brown. I tried to pick out some fur around the knee pads, and the knee pads themselves are done in a darker brown. The skin was just done in green. The helmet is actually a skull, so I've painted it up like a skull. So I've done that in the bone white. I've mixed the horns with a little bit of brown to put them in a very, very light brown. And then I was going to go over that with the umber wash to really darken that up specifically away from the skull. I'll probably do a little bit of sepia around the skull to pick out the eyes. The axe head is done in copper. Handle is just done in brown, and I've tried to pick out the gem with a little bit of electric blue.
The gem stands out really nice.
Yeah, I will probably try and dry brush that in a verdigris sort of colour with a turquoise. The armoured shoulder pads and the braces I've done in gunmetal, and the cloak and shirt I've done in a I forget which one I used. It was one of the greys, cold grey, and then I was going to black wash that, and then go up from the gold grey in the three tones up to, I might go Arctic white, I don't know. And this is where I come across before when I tried to do the wolf pelt is picking out the dry brushing. So should I dry brush that first, then go with a black wash, or wash it and dry brush it afterwards?
For me, it would depend on how. If you're gonna wash it, I would wash it first and then dry brush it, because you're gonna bring it with a black wash. You're gonna bring a lot of color out of it.
Yeah.
So
I like the idea of the skull helmet, because on the back of the box it says, it's just metal. So I like your approach. Have a skull cap.
Yeah, I thought it looked like a skull just because of the horns on it, so that's what I decided to go with. Yeah, but I've only got as far as blocking out the colour. There's no wash on that at all, or any dry brushing at all.
Cool. Right. Next up is Joe. Joe's camera's over here. Here we go. Oh, he's got your hair, Joe.
He has. Yeah. It's just like me in orc form, basically. I don't know how close I can get to. Yeah.
Did you put in an eyeball?
Let's just go with yes.
Oh, okay.
It's just a happy wash incident.
Okay.
It's weird because I haven't got it in the holder, so I can't turn it around very well. Yeah, I managed to get a wash on, and I started dry brushing by dry brushing the cloak. I'd already dry brushed the axe, and I wouldn't dry brush his body. I would normally just block that out in orc colours, just because that's how I would paint orcs, because I think you can pick out the muscles and things like that a lot better by blocking out colour rather than...
I definitely need to learn how to dry brush.
Yeah, I like the cloak. I think the cloak's pretty good.
I like the leather, again, the leather on the shoulder, like you've got on sort of black leather, and it picks up the detail really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of like reminds me of like Chewbacca's like bandolier thing on his shoulder.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, a lot of detail, as soon as you've done that so dark. That is good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Well done. So now, Dwight has to choose.
I don't like this part.
Done.
So That was Joe that did that last one, right?
Yep.
It is.
Okay. I think I'm gonna have to go with Joe. I really like that. I really like that black leather and that the dry brushing on that leather and the cape there.
Are you sure? You went straight in with that one. Most people are like, oh, suspense. The winner is. That was like, I'm going with Joe because
He's a pro. He doesn't mess around.
I'll send you that money later. It's fine. Don't worry.
I'm old. I can't remember what happened more than 30 seconds ago. So that one that I just saw is my favorite. So those were all really good. I don't like choosing between them because I liked bits about all three of them. So
Thank you.
But yeah, I think that one. I love watching other people's color choices. I really do. I went real safe on mine and seeing how some of y'all played with different colors and darker colors. I really dig that. So Groovy Sound says I prefer Aaron's. I do too. That color scheme is dope. I really like that mini. So
Yeah.
I do too, but it's not that show. It's about me, Steve, and Joe.
Right.
Okay, me, Steve, and Joe.
I win.
I'm coming for you, Steve.
can we give Aaron a star? Aaron,
Yeah.
Right.
We'll change the
I'm happy to
rules.
take the star.
Right. So,
He's not coming back next week. Look, I'm still here.
And hey, what I have to say about Joe's too is I love the blue mohawk because it reminds me of Nate, Master of Mischief over at Dwarven Forge. That mohawk of his has been many different colors, and I think that was a true Dwarven Forge fashion choice, Joe. Respect.
Thank you.
Go on, Joe. Quick, do another mohawk bow.
Mate, I still need to go to the hairdressers and get mine sorted. It's just all green tips now. I look like a kid from the 90s.
We'll have to see if we can get. We'll have to see if we can get Nate and you on the same stream, just so you can compare mohawk. Or I'll bring my one back as well. So I did mine this time last year. I have to bring it back.
But I can, it's really tall now. I can spike it to about here.
Bloody hell! You put on the hairspray. So by us rambling, Steve should have been doing his technomancy, and here we go.
That was why I was rambling. Honest.
So the poll is up. Please vote away.
So now you get to. So you, the audience, along with Hamster, get to choose. Basically, myself or Steve gets to take home the silver star.
All right, chat. So here's what I'm thinking. Okay, so I know I didn't go with the classic green skin, but I did appreciate that Dave had that really vibrant green, almost that like World of Warcraft style, the classic 90s Warhammer Orc style. I really appreciated that. We mentioned the skull, that really bone ivory skull on Steve's model.
Yep.
I like the copper weapon. I often default to a silver. I think it's cool that we went a little different there. The gemstone looked great. I also like that bone helmet brings it right to his face, which is cool. Unfortunately, he's still waiting for one of his weapons to spawn in. So we have to factor that in too, right? So that's kind of where my head's at. So I'm interested in what you guys think with this poll.
Cool. We've got some votes coming in, which is good to see.
I've got a good history with painting orcs.
I could do some tactical voting right now.
I did finish mine. It's up on screen, but that's for the Zoom viewers. That's my finished one, and the one you did. That's what.
Move it down a bit.
Actually, I could look at my own Zoom screen and see what it There you go. That was my finished one from before.
Oh, nice.
But I didn't do that during the stream. That was after dry brushing. I got to about the same level as today. Actually, I think I got a little bit further today.
Thank you, Groovy Sounds. Thank you again. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching, whether it's on Twitch live or whether it's on YouTube. Thank you very much. We hope you enjoy it. We're making some new shows as well. We've got loads of things coming this way soon. Plus our first kind of go at supporting some charity fundraisers. So you'll see Steve, Joe and myself on during Jasper's game week, which is in a couple of weeks' time. I think and we're playing with some Australians. For some reason we're really popular in Australia. after this, we probably won't be. But we're supporting Meeples and Dragons on the Ardent Twitch. Off the top of my head, I can't remember which games we're in, but as soon as we know, we'll be promoting that, so do kind of join in for that as well.
I am on the 4th, aren't I?
Yeah, I'm on the 7th. I'm with Underdark, the Underdark.
Cool.
DM Jared.
I've just seen the results, Steve.
Yes, you have just.
I won! I won!
And chat has voted for you. So the question is, Hamster, do you agree?
Oh!
You pointed out at the beginning of the stream several times. You have to agree with chat.
Right. Thanks all for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.
Roll credits.
Yeah. And we're out. There we go. Yeah.
I think the question goes to you, Steve. What do you got to offer me?
No, I think Dave deserves a star.
Well,
he
here's the
finished.
thing. I love Steve's choices. I love Dave's choices. But look, there's no show, right, without the chat, without the viewers. So because of your awesome support, and this has been so fun because of you guys, I'm standing by you, chat.
Thank you very much. Thank you, chat. Thank you, Hamster. Thank you,
See if
chat.
there's any vote rigging going on.
Yeah, what, me dropping my 56k's worth of channel points on Dave?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
That was a very fair vote this week.
Yeah. Yes.
Cool. But again, so I've only been painting since doing this show.
Hamster of the people.
It's if you've ever thought about getting into a new hobby, especially because most people are still in lockdown, are still not had their jabs yet, are still kind of self-isolating because they have loved ones at home that and they want to look after them. So please do consider doing this. It's a really good hobby. It's really relaxing. I never thought it was that kind of thing, and even just getting a bunch of people online, it's been really fun. Just have a chat with people and talk about painting.
Yeah.
I've come a long way in what did I say this was?
9 weeks.
9 weeks.
9 episodes.
9 episodes, 2 hours a week, Steve.
18 hours.
There you go. 18 hours. That's not bad. And I'm really impressed. As Dwight was saying, you hold it that far away, that at arm's length. There you go. It looks really good.
Right?
That's silver star winners. Right. Thank you very much for joining us. We're back again next week, but we've got a ton of programs all week. We'll see you next time. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye.